Alright, that should all be working. I'm just going to make sure I have the chat open on my phone as well in case there's any errors. Open the chats. Cool. Okay. Hello everyone and welcome to today's celebration of Bendideia. I think we're a little bit early for the calendar, at least for the Hellenian calendar. That's simply because this is the best time for me to do the festival, and I really wanted to do it this year for the Sanctuary of the Crossroads. My name is Quinton, or Quinn, as you may know me as. My pronouns are they, them, or he, him, and I'm one of the admins here at the Sanctuary of the Crossroads. I would like to do an acknowledgement of country, which is a tradition we have in Australia. So I would like to acknowledge the land from which I am hosting this presentation, ritual and meditation from today, the land of the Wurundjeri Woi-wurrung peoples of the Kulin Nation. I pay my respects to elders past and present, and extend my respect to those who are present who are First Nations as well. This land that I am on is and always will be Aboriginal land, and sovereignty was never ceded. And I extend my thanks and respect to the spirits of place and the spirits of land that hold me here as well each day that I'm able to do this work. Thanks for confirming that it's working well, Nico. Alright. Well, I think you did. I saw a message and then now it's gone. My thing glitched a little bit. In any case, we are going to start with a bit of a presentation. I'm going to talk about Bendis, talk about Bendideia, and sort of like provide context for what we're doing today. Starting with who is the goddess Bendis. So, Bendis is an ancient Thracian goddess of the moon and hunting who was worshipped with Bacchic, or you may know this as like Dionysian-like rites, in the wilds of Thrace or Thrake. And this is important to note because she isn't originally from ancient Greece. She isn't considered like an Athenian goddess. She is a Thracian goddess, and she traveled to Athens. Now, here's a little map as well of where Thrace was. So the countries and the name of different places have changed over time, of course. And we have a bit of a reference here. We have Greece down here on the left side, and then we have Turkey over here, and Turkey is where ancient Anatolia was. And then we have this yellow highlighted part here, which is where Thrace was located. And so we can see this sort of like proximity to Greece, and where ancient Greece was, proximity to ancient Anatolia, and then there's Thrace right there. And it wasn't uncommon for goddesses to sort of like travel, oh, not goddesses, sorry, any deity, not just goddesses, to travel between different regions due to the traveling of just people and the way that, you know, religion was brought with the people, they brought along their faith, their gods, introduced them to new places, and that's what happened here as well. So going back to who Bendis is, she was identified with goddesses like Artemis, the goddess of the wild and of the hunt for the Greek pantheon, with Selene, the goddess of the moon, Persephone, the goddess of springtime and the queen of the underworld, and Hecate, who we know and love from our devotion to her here. Hecate is the goddess of the crossroads, not specifically identified as such, but Hecate, the goddess of the crossroads. And this syncretism between Bendis and these goddesses contributes to a quite a history of syncretism between this group of goddesses. We see them syncretized quite often in late antiquity. So this was around like the 2nd or 3rd to 5th century CE. So quite later in history. And this was around the more of the Greco-Egyptian time and also the Hellenistic and Roman time, when a lot of that sort of magic and tradition was emerging, including the Greek magical papyri, or the PGM, which is a collection of spells that dates from around that time as well, and that the PGM features syncretisms between goddesses such as Hecate and Selene and Artemis and Persephone. Um, and this syncretism is also found in the Dionysiaca, which was written by Nonus. This was a later literary work as well. I believe it was a play. And I kind of have a quote, quite a large quote, but a section from this text, the Dionysiaca, that features not Bendis, but some of these syncretisms that I really love. So I just wanted to include it as well, as I thought it was a nice way to come to understand the way that these different goddesses were syncretized and placed together. So this reads, O daughter of Helios, moon of many turnings, nurse of all, O Selene, driver of the silver car, if thou art Hecate of many names, if in the night thou dost shake thy mystic torch in brand-carrying hand, come, night wanderer, nurse of puppies, because the nightly sound of the hurrying dogs is thy delight with their mournful whimpering. If thou art stag hunter Artemis, if on the hills thou dost eagerly hunt with fawn-killing Dionysos, be thy brother's helper now. For I have in me the blood of ancient Cadmus, and I am being chased out of Thebes, out of my mother Semele's home. A mortal man, a creature quickly perishing, an enemy of God, persecutes me. As a being of the night, help Dionysus of the night, when they pursue me. If thou art Persephonia, whimpering of the dead, and yours are the ghosts which are subservient to the throne of Tartaros, let me see Pentheus a dead man, and let Hermes, thy musterer of ghosts, lull to sleep the tears of Dionysus in his grief. So that's one of my favorite passages from the Dionysiaca that features a few of those goddesses there. In terms of Bendis and her depictions, at least the ones we know of her on pottery and such, and in terms of like in relation to her festivities, she was depicted with lances or spears. So she was a spear-wielding goddess, which is really cool. She was a torchbearer. She was seen with a Thracian fox-skin cap. It's also like the Thracian cap is often identified as well as the Phrygian cap. She also wore deerskin cloak, or a deerskin cloak, high boots, and a knee-length dress, which was characteristic of huntress goddesses, or goddesses of the hunt and wild. My mistake, I clicked something that I shouldn't have on my phone. That's what happens when you have your phone out as well on Discord. Anyway. No, that was me. Sorry about that. Alright, continuing onwards. We have a couple depictions here of her on pottery. This one is of Themis, who was a titan of divine law and order. And we also have Bendis here on the side, who was depicted with a deer down here. And this is one of the depictions where she's wearing like a deer skin cloak and she's holding a spear, which I think is super cool. And then we also have this amazing red pottery where we have Bendis on the left side here. She's holding her spear once again, and she has a plate. And we have our lovely Apollon and Hermes here as well. So we see that she's been depicted with these gods. Apollon here is holding a hare in one hand, and in the other hand is a laurel branch, because his one of his sacred plants is the bay laurel. And then we have Hermes here on the right side. He's wearing a petasos, which is a traveler's cap, and he's holding a caduceus, or a herald's wand, as it's called. So I think that is great too. So what was Bendideia, the festival? It was a festival celebrated in Athens when the cult of Bendis had travelled there. So this is some information I got from the Hellenion.org website on the information for Bendideia. The cult was introduced to Athens in 429 BCE by Thracian residents. And their shrine to her was built on the hill of Munichia, which was near the temple of Artemis, and Artemis was identified with Bendis as well, as we have spoken about briefly. Plato wrote about Bendideia in his text, The Republic or Republic. And what was one of the interesting things I found about Bendideia was that it was celebrated in two ways, the Athenian way and the Thracian way. So both of them held processions, but the processions were a little different. And one of the traditions that stood out for in terms of the Thracian way of celebrating Bendideia was that they had torch races on horseback. So they were carrying torches while they were on horses, and that was noted to be a Thracian thing rather than an Athenian celebration. And it was said that there were all-night festivities as well, so nocturnal elements to this celebration. And some of this information you can also find in Handbook to Life in Ancient Greece by Leslie Atkins and Roy A. Atkins, and also Festivals of the Athenians by H.W. Park. How do we celebrate Bendideia now, at least in the Sanctuary of the Crossroads, as we are celebrating today for the first time? So some of the key elements I noted from the Festival of Bendideia was they had torchlit processions, they had cleansing elements, there were garlands mentioned, horseback torch races, festival meals, and an all-night festival. And so I worked on a ritual script, or forming a ritual that could be adapted for modern worship and devotion. So perhaps we're not going to be getting on horses and racing with torches today, but our ritual does consist of things such as a representation of a procession, cleaning with a basin, and that being a sympathetic magical element to our working. A garland to represent something as well in our ritual, this sort of like renewal and growth in freedom, because freedom is one of the core elements that we're celebrating in this festival. And as mentioned here, connections to Bendis' domains. So goddesses of the wild and hunt typically were associated with freedom as well. And there was this element of being youthful. And if you think about sort of the ancient Greek civilization and their societal expectations, the thing of like them getting married, and then there was like these rites of passage that women usually went through. Similar with like Artemis and Apollon, who were eternal youths, Bendis is seen in this archetype as well, where she doesn't necessarily marry and therefore remains free. And we can see how that framework, or like that fits into the framework of ancient Greece. Like nowadays, we don't so much see marriage, or we hopefully don't see some marriages as like a like getting trapped, or being trapped. There are some other situations where maybe, but in general, our sort of view of marriage is different. But yes, she represents this sort of freedom and wildness and ability to do what she would like. And I've also written Bacchic inspired rites. The certain type of Bacchic rites they had, or that was said to be done back then, were a bit more different, more Dionysian than what we're doing today. But there are inspirations in terms of these ecstatic movement-based elements and music-based elements that is going to be brought in. You can find the ritual script for this on the Sanctuary of the Crossroads website, or I've linked it a few times in event announcements, and I think even in the event listing. So please feel free to check it out. There's a page for Bendideia, and then there's a page for the ritual itself. And this is a ritual you can either participate in today if you have the materials, or you can even do it over the weekend yourself. At any time, you're allowed to use the script. That's what it's there for. On the Bendideia page, we also have offerings I've listed for Bendis, which you can provide to her. This includes things like wheat, because it's said that women of Thrace offered wheat to Bendis. Or you can do grains, candles or torches, horse-themed votives, dog-themed votives. Dogs were also a sacred animal of Bendis, such as it was with Hecate. Imagery of spears, libations such as the usual water, wine, and milk, cakes such as like small honey cakes, honey, and fresh fruits are some suggestions. For us in the Sanctuary of the Crossroads, we celebrate, or I intended or wanted to celebrate Bendideia, because I wanted to acknowledge the unique aspects of Hecate that aren't often celebrated, such as her connection between herself and Bendis, and how Bendis Hecate is a syncretism you can honor today. And you can also celebrate Bendis, Hecate, Selene, Artemis, Persephone. I'm not sure who I missed there, but if I missed anyone. But yeah, essentially, it's open, and it's something that you can look at according to your version of worship and the way you see the world and the way you see these elements and domains. So that brings me to the end of the presentation in regards to Bendideia, the festival, and what we're going to be doing today, essentially, and why we're doing it. So let me know if you have any questions, as I'll take questions before we proceed to the ritual and meditation. And I've just written here an upcoming order of events. We'll do a ritual, 20-minute dance meditation. You can tap out at any time. I'll also repeat this again at the start of the meditation. And then we'll have a small debrief as well. Just checking the chat. Heka, you said interestingly she has a fox hat considering you recently found a fox. Oh, true. You said dang. I'm assuming that's because I said we're not doing horseback torch races today. Maybe some other time. Thank you for the claps, Nico, and thanks for putting that link down, Ellie. Yeah. Any questions? I'm going to drink water as well. Alright, no worries. So feel free to ask questions in the chat if you would like later on, if you feel inclined, and I'll probably answer them when I get a chance. For now, we're going to set up the ritual portion. So I'll have the ritual script shared here. And let me just quickly adjust my camera so you can see what I have in front of me. Here we are. So, I've done my setup according to what I've written in the ritual script here. I've done my purifications of self beforehand and the purification of space. I have my physical representation of the goddess in the back here. So I'm using a statue of Hecate, as today I am wanting to honor a syncretism between Bendis and Hecate. I also have from left to right, or it's kind of like mine's backwards because it's facing you guys. If I was doing this just by myself, I would turn it around so it's facing me, but I'm doing it for you guys. So from left to right, we have a candle here and a candle over here. I'll fix them up and adjust them when it's time. I have my bowl of water here. It's just normal water, tap water, or it was boiled tap water because it just had more like correspondence to me with like cleansing. And then I have a cloth here at the front. My garlands that I'm using today is this crown of rosemary from my front yard. It's a bit dried out, so I'm trying not to like tear it apart. And I also have some offerings for Bendis. So I have this plate here and I have these barley grains. So I'm going to open this jar and place some barley grains on there for her. And I have incense right here. That's frankincense. As I like frankincense because it's quite a diverse and widely used scent for honoring the divine. I also noted that one of the things we wanted to include in this ritual is a list of experiences or circumstances that represent freedom for you. Because this ritual is about honoring Bendis and calling for freedom in whatever way we need right now. And we have different meanings for all of these different elements of the ritual, where the candles representing the procession itself. The bowl of water represents the cleansing in the basin, which also is going to correlate with this idea of cleansing away anything that binds us or like restrains us from reaching this freedom that we desire. And then we have the garland dedication, which is in terms of growth. And then the ecstatic dance is to help us feel embodied and present. So I invite you now to, if you would like to write on your device, on a piece of paper in your notebook, if you haven't already, anything that represents freedom to you. It could be very specific experiences. It can be a very wide, big thing. Don't feel like you need to hold back in terms of like how big or like small it is, or like if it's, no one's going to see it except for yourself. And so allow yourself to take these few moments to do that. I'm going to give us about 4 minutes to bring us to the hour if you would like to do that. So that brings us to the end of our 4 minutes there. So I hope if you had a chance to write things down, that it helped you sort of ground yourself in those things that we're considering today for our ritual. I wrote mine here. I filled in 2 sides of this small paper here that I prepared. Alright, so now we will begin with the ritual order. I'm going to light my incense here. And we'll begin with the invocation. I call to Bendis Hecate, she who wields the double spear and unites with Themis, bringing harmony across 2 lands. Great torchbearer who races through the night on horseback, wild one of freedom and nature. Cloaked Bendis with the foxskin cap, you host feasts and rites of ecstasis where satyrs and maenads accompany you. You were called the mother of Sabazios, the great mother goddess, the huntress, lady of the moon. Hear me, she who binds and unbinds. Come to our sacred rites in good favor, with kindly heart. Bendis, I offer these barley grains to you, representing your traditional offerings of wheat. And I offer this incense to you, the scent of frankincense. As the smoke rises and spreads, may it reach you where you are and please you. May you accept these offerings on your celebration of Bendideia. So we're going to light the first torch here. It'd be on the left side for you to represent the beginning of the symbolic procession. O lovely Bendis, I join you at the beginning of your holy procession with this torch. May you light the way forward and bring us closer. So as mentioned, inspired by the basins and sponges that are noted to have been used during ancient Bendideia, probably because people were doing really long processions and needed to be cleaned. But here we've implemented it into our modern ritual. So now we're going to take some time to consider all the things you want to release that currently inhibit your ability to seek freedom or gain freedom in all the ways that you are seeking. Bendis's name is thought to mean to bind, unite, combine. And in my thoughts and way of interpreting this, and as is common as well in deities, to have like sort of 2 sides of a domain. I believe she's a goddess who binds and also unbinds. Another example of this is how Apollon is a god of healing, but also a god who can bring plagues. And so there's like two sides to that. So here we're going to ask Bendis to unbind us from what holds us back. And I'll give us a few moments to think about this prompt. And on your end, if you wish to participate, you can use a cloth or sponge, or just like use your hands to clean in water. You can also choose to clean your face and other parts of your body. It's up to you. And you can visualize or imagine or think about everything you're unbinding and letting it fall away and letting it burn also in Bendis' torch fire. So the water washing it away and then the fire burning it away too. And it's okay if you need some more time as well to do this. This is a good thing to also focus on during the meditation portion as well. And at any time you wish, you can engage in this sort of practice of very mindfully considering what it is you want to let go of and using water to wash that away. now going to do the second candle here for our second torch. Torchbearing Bendis of Thrace and Athens. This procession has reached its end, but our festivities are not yet finished. It is at this point that I invite you. You can read these to yourself quietly, or maybe out loud if you're in an environment where you can do that, or you can read them in your head. Your list or thoughts that we prepared earlier in regards to what freedom represents to you. You can take a few moments to reflect on this, just to sit in that before we move on to the next part. So now we'll do our garland dedication. If there's anyone who has something that represents a garland for them that they would like to use. It could be an actual garland, it can be a decorative garland like from the shops. It can be something like this where I've made a crown out of rosemary. It can be a house plant even. I think anything that represents a plant, even if it's like dried or harvested already, or if it's like not like it's like paper or something, or like sometimes it's plastic, as long as you're not like putting it in the landfill, that should be okay. But yeah, anything that represents for you like growth, wild growth, nature, you can use that. You can hold it in your hands or hover a hand or two over it depending on what item you have. And I'm going to read this dedication that I wrote. And you can say this aloud yourself as well or think it in your head. Bendis, huntress of the wild and green, I dedicate this garland to you and my freedom. May my freedom grow as your wilderness does. May your torch light my pathways towards my desires. May you liberate me from my binds. So we'll now be transitioning to the ecstatic dance meditation portion. I've been calling it different things because it can really be different things depending on how you would like to do it. It can be a movement meditation, ecstatic dance meditation. I also wrote in the recent announcements, you don't have to sit still meditation. A lot of the meditations that we are encouraged to do or learn about are ones where we sit still and be silent and try to bring our mind to a sort of peace that is represented by sometimes blankness, or avoiding the stimuli of our everyday lives. But here, I'm going to change the music, and it'll be running for 20 minutes, and you're invited to do whatever you want on your end to this music. I'm going to turn my camera off so it's not distracting, and so I can do my thing. You can get up and dance, you can sit down and move around, you can just move your arms, you can just move your legs, your head, you can nod your head along. You could even just sit still and imagine yourself doing it. I think that is also very powerful to do it in that way because it still sort of engages you in this embodiment of movement. And just a few disclaimers. Ensure that if you have altar items lit or something, that they're safe and secure. If you need to, you can extinguish your candles for safety and move the water. Or if it's in a set place where you think it's going to be fine and you're not going to knock it over, then that's okay too. You can discern your own safety measures for that. Even though the music will be going for 20 minutes, you don't have to stay for the whole 20 minutes. But if you do tap out early, I do recommend skipping to the last step I've written here, which is in regards to checking in with yourself about the experience. And if you need to do anything such as resting, eating, or writing something down, and just let yourself ground as well. Grounding can be sitting down and taking a few deep breaths and making sure like something I think of as checking off your body parts is got my arms, got my hands, got my torso, my legs. That's a way to ground as well. But if you stay for the whole time, I will lead you through the grounding too. So you don't have to worry about that if you want to stay the whole time. This is something you can do yourself anytime, from as little as 5 minutes to as long as an hour. But obviously be aware of yourself and your limits and how you want to navigate something like this. And for this portion, focus on releasing expectations on how you appear or feel. Focus on being yourself, releasing stagnant energy and emotions, feeling into your body, getting into your own body and out of your mind through breath, movement, and music. AKA, this is a way to do this without being inebriated by other things. And also honor the way that your body wants to move and what it wants to do. This may also be a good time if you wish to connect with Bendis Hecate, or Bendis if you wish to engage with her and even receive a message from her if that's something that you feel like you would like to do. But really, it's your time to do this. So it's currently 20 past the hour where I am. And doing this for 20 minutes will bring us to 40 minutes past the hour. So I'll change the music now. And I'll keep time for everyone who wishes to participate. And that brings us to the end of the drumming track and the end of that meditation. And if you wish to continue it, you are more than welcome to in your own time. For now, I will run us through a bit of a grounding exercise. Sorry, Gwen, didn't mean to jump scare you. I've just put the track in the chat. So if you ever want to use it, then you're more than welcome to. And then if you would like to be grounded now, you can let yourself take some intentional deep breaths in and out. You can let yourself come back to your body in the present moment where you are in your space. If you're sitting, standing, laying, in whatever position you're in, you can acknowledge that. Allow yourself to ground back through your feet. And then moving up to your knees, becoming aware of your legs, up to your hips. Bringing your attention up to your torso, being present there. Your shoulders and your arms, down to your hands. And you can move your hands around if you wish. You may have been moving them anyway before, but now as you come back to yourself, and then you can return back up to your neck and your throat and be aware of that. If you want to bring your voice into it, if you weren't already before, you want to just ground yourself in your voice, you can do that, like a hum or bring, like saying something. Bring yourself back there and up to your head, your face as well. And then if you want, you can shake yourself all out or even just stay still, have a drink of water. I invite you to write things down if you want to write down any of your experience there using a notebook and pen, or you can write it in the experiences channel in the server. You're more than welcome to write anything there. And if you want, you can tag me. You don't have to, but I like reading people's things. So you can if you want. And yeah, do what you need to do if you need to use the bathroom, if you need to eat something. Um, Vin, will you listen to your own music? Because I think that's the only way you can listen to the wrong music.
As a teenager.
In like what, it doesn't matter if it's the wrong music or like different music as well, as long as you were enjoying it. You hit the unmusic button. That's okay. I mean, that's pretty fun music too. Okay. Yeah. I mean, that's funky. So if that worked for you, then it worked for you. But if not, then you can always listen to the track that I've linked, and you can see what that's like too. You're welcome, Vin. Thanks for coming. If anyone wants to talk about their experience either by text or by voice, let me know. Um, because I can move to VC1 if anyone wants to hang out there for a few minutes.